What's up in War Eagle War Report family? It's your guy Ike Jones, and we're back with another morning drop. Today, we're talking about Auburn, and they are going bowling up in Nashville for the Music City Bowl. You know, we got to talk about it right here. Y'all know how we do, War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop. It is Monday, December 4th. Hopefully, everybody is having a good start to your week on this Monday morning. Ike Jones in here talking a little Auburn football. Postseason is upon us. The transfer portal is officially open, and Auburn is going bowling up in Nashville. So we're here to talk about that. Before we get into the conversation, make sure you're doing the necessary. Share the video out there on social media, whatever platform you prefer, at the War Report, to let us know that you've done that. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up on the video if you're watching it live, or if you're going back and watching it later. We appreciate all of the love in that way. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's get those subscription numbers running up right there. If you're back listening to this on podcast, then go ahead and share the podcast with somebody. Give us that 5-star review on whatever app it is that you're listening to, especially if you're out there on the world of Apple. We love to see those over there in the Apple app. All right, man, let's get into the conversation a little bit about this morning drop and the Music City Bowl. It's Metrics Monday, so as always, I got to come with some sort of metric in regard to what the conversation is. And let's just take a look at what Auburn's record is in Music City Bowl specifically. Auburn has been to 2. This will be the 3rd time that Auburn has made the trip to Nashville for the Music City Bowl. Auburn has not lost in the Music City Bowl thus far. I repeat, 2-0 in the Music City Bowl. Coach Hugh Freeze, let's not set a trend or break that trend this time. 2-0 in the Music City Bowl. Hugh Freeze himself 6-2 in bowl records. Asterisk by one of them. I had to vacate one of those bowl wins at Ole Miss. The other interesting statistic, or the other interesting number that I wanted to look at, is Auburn under first-year head coaches in the bowl. And this is where we go into a trend in the direction that I don't want. And Auburn is 3-5 with first-year head coaches in the bowl game. Most recently, Coach Brian Harsin losing in the Birmingham Bowl, his first trip to a bowl as an Auburn head coach. His only trip. He only made 2, only here for 2 years, and did not make it to the end of that second season. Coach Hugh Freeze, in the 3 different stops that he has had as a head coach, is 2-1 in his first year as a head coach, taking a team to a bowl game. So those are the numbers there for you. Music City Bowl has been kind, though, to Auburn. So we'll stick with the numbers that I like the most, and that is the 2-0 in the Music City Bowl. Most recently, Auburn took the trip to the Music City Bowl in 2018. That was the 63-14 dismantling of Purdue that happened in that one. And then previously it was, I believe it was Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken, in the Music City Bowl. Let me find that really quickly. It was Wisconsin. Yes, in 2003, Auburn won 28-14 in that one. So, again, Auburn has done a good job when going up to Nashville. Hopefully we can continue that trend in a positive direction. Maryland is the team that Auburn is going to be facing this time. We'll definitely get more into the specifics of what we'd be facing versus Maryland in the Music City Bowl as that game approaches. For those that don't know, Music City Bowl is going to be going down on December the 30th. So you have plenty of time to get your tickets to that if you want to travel to Nashville. Auburn usually travels well. Nashville is usually a place where Auburn can get to pretty easily. Auburn fans get to pretty easily. A lot of Nashville supporters there. So I expect the place to be full of orange and blue. So looking forward to being in that environment and atmosphere. But you got plenty of time to go out there and get your tickets and make sure that we support these young men. But the interesting thing, well, not necessarily interesting, but I think the difficult thing that Auburn is going to have to figure out how to do is really something that Coach Hugh Freeze talked about already. And how is he going to keep a team that's going to be competitive out there? And it's not going to be unique to Auburn. There are going to be a lot of teams that are not in the college football playoff picture that are going to have to be dealing with this. But how do you field a competitive team in the era of the transfer portal and with you having seniors that have an opportunity to go play at the next level. Are they going to want to play a final game that essentially I mean, it's not meaningless, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to really help a lot of those people figure out what to do with their next level. There aren't a lot of fringe players that have the opportunity to go pro for Auburn, meaning they need a little more tape to convince some people. And those that are, I guess, potentially on the fringe of that, are guys that are likely going to get an opportunity. Well, not necessarily on the fringe of getting drafted. I think that most guys who are going to be declaring for the draft for Auburn, most of them, not all, most of them have a pretty firm idea of where they are going to be in the draft. So a bowl showing out in a bowl game, national televised, all that stuff, that doesn't really help their draft stock a lot. And the other ones that may have some flux in their draft stock are likely going to be at the Senior Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see which players for Auburn, especially as this week progresses with the transfer portal being open, what kind of team Auburn is going to be fielding. And then, you have to look at that from the Maryland standpoint as well and see how many of their players are going to opt out of playing in the bowl game because they are either going to the transfer portal or they're going to be graduating and attempting to move on with whatever professional endeavors that they have. And they're leaving football behind. One more game doesn't mean a whole bunch to their future, especially if their future includes trying to play professional football, whether that be in the NFL or some other professional league that exists out there. So it will be interesting to see kind of what the level of competition is and how much people are going to give these coaches. And I do say these coaches because not just Hugh Freeze, but again, um, the Maryland coach or any other coach around the country that's having to deal with this, how much you shoot them some bail on that, right? And you're playing with players that really haven't played the majority of the season in a lot of positions that they haven't played. If you recall, though, in that game versus Purdue, that's the game where everybody fell in love with some of the wide receivers that we had never seen. And we're like, how come this guy is never, well, they never got an opportunity during the season because they had been on the bench and the guys that usually would have been playing in front of them weren't playing in that game, right? So you get an opportunity though to see some guys maybe that hadn't played a lot, and it'll pique your interest. So it's going to be interesting, really, to see from the Auburn perspective how much Auburn fans are going to be patient with the product on the field for a bowl game, considering there could be a lot of players in this game that had not previously been playing very much, especially if that is not the case on the other side of the football with Maryland. If they don't have a ton of turnover, they have a lot of guys who had been playing a lot of snaps, or at least guys that were crucial or very big to what they put out there as a product. Uh, if those guys are playing a bunch of snaps and Auburn subsequently does not have that same level of participation from guys on their team. And I think it's going to be an interesting proposition. And I don't necessarily blame any player who decides, you know what, I need to go ahead and prepare myself for the NFL draft or for trying to get with trainers so that I can figure out what I'm going to do with my professional career. I don't necessarily blame any of them that decide to do that. It sucks for me as a fan because I want to see our team at full strength go out there and play in a bowl game. But the bowl games, and I've talked about this before, don't necessarily have the same feel anymore for a lot of these young men because they don't have the same meaning. Um, Auburn wins a Music City Bowl and it gets good momentum for you if you are a returning player and you get those extra practices and you get those extra reps if you're going to be returning. But if you're not a player who will be returning to Auburn, does it have the same luster for you as it once did, especially considering, now the Music City Bowl was never going to be something that someone would mistake for a national playoff, or excuse me, a national title a game implications. But it still felt a little different than it does in the era of the BCS, right? Where that there is a national title game, right? There was once upon a time, you know, a place where you could have a debate about, well, was this the best two teams there with in the BCS era, or when there are multiple get bowl games where one wasn't designated as the championship game, who was the best team and did the best two teams face each other in the bowl game? There was once upon a time when that was a debate. We still are having those debates about who gets into the playoff. And, I'm not going to get into the whole playoff picture this season. I think that was well spoken yesterday on the weekend tailgate, though I wasn't here. I'm not going to use this platform to talk about that. Maybe I'll give my thoughts at another time on that. But if you follow me on Twitter, you know how I feel about it. But there was a time when that debate, I think, was more healthy, or more, you had more room for that debate. Now there's not really room for the debate. You'd crown a champion in a championship game, and whether you feel like those were the best teams or not, it's kind of irrelevant. You know who the champion is, unless you're UCF and you just decide, well, you guys didn't put us in, so we're just going to claim our own title. Um, but you do have a champion that gets crowned on the field. It makes, in getting back to the point, it makes these other bowl games feel a little less relevant, particularly for guys who have aspirations to move up to the next level. And this won't be their last time playing football, but it will be their last time playing collegiate football. So do I risk injury? Do I, go out there, especially, and again, especially in the era of the transfer portal, where some of these young men, particularly for Auburn, in the case of Auburn, I don't know anything about the Maryland roster and how it's comprised of transfers, but there are transfers who were here and this was their only year of eligibility. So if they have pro aspirations, do they feel that same sense of pride in Auburn to go out here and play that final game, to leave it on the line for the school, right? They might not have that connection that even matters to them, right? And so and I don't know the answer to that for any of those young men, because I haven't spoken with a lot of those 1-year transfer guys. Again, if they are a 1-year transfer guy and they have professional aspirations, I don't know what percentage of those guys decide, hey, I'm going to sit out this bowl game so I can go out here and figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my career. So it's going to be interesting, but hopefully Auburn is able to continue their unbeaten streak at the Music City Bowl, and we will definitely see what is what up here in a couple of weeks. All right. That's it, man. I am going to transition over here and we will talk a little bit about what you all have to say in the live chat. And I appreciate you all dropping in with us. Today's morning drop is brought to you by the good folks at MANSCAPED. MANSCAPED is one of my favorite sponsors here of the War Report. Listen, it is the Christmas season and Manscaped is here. The leaders in the below the waist grooming have launched their 5th generation performance package to help you avoid another silent night in the bedroom this year. Take care of your special snowflake with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra and watch your South Pole shine like never before. Get the best stocking stuffer by going to manscaped.com and using code RAPPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. Mrs. Claus will thank you. Again, go to manscaped.com, use code RAPPORT. That's 20% off plus free shipping when you go there and use code RAPPORT. Say ho, ho, ho to a well-groomed mistletoe with Manscaped. All right, we are going to get over into the comment section. Listen, man, Manscaped always has the best ad reads, man. I love it. We're going to get over into the comment section and see what you guys are talking about this morning. Appreciate you all again dropping in with us this morning. Chris S says, not a terrible drive. Might have to pull up for this one. Glad it's not in Beham. How far away are you from Beham? That Nashville's not a terrible drive, but Birmingham is. Or are you just saying you're glad it's not Birmingham Bowl? Hey, there, man, don't be talking negatively about Birmingham, Chris. I don't wanna have no problems here this morning, man. Listen, man, let's keep it cute, bro. No, I'm just playing. Let's see here. Chris S jumps back in and says, "Let Holden sling it." Feels unlikely, man. Again, right now, and we've had this conversation a few times, it feels as if there is going to be a commitment to Peyton Thorne. And so if Peyton Thorne's going to be your quarterback next season, and you're going to have some guys that have not played a lot of snaps this season, and we haven't thrown the ball a lot this season, it seems as if Peyton Thorne's going to be you have to start him in the bowl game, and you have to get an opportunity. So the only real reason, or the only chance I should say, that Holden would get into the game is if Auburn does a Purdue, right? And they beat him down so badly. And let's like make no mistakes, this is a high powered Maryland offense, and we'll get more into the matchup with Maryland. They can score points, so your defense is going to have to show up. And again, how much of that defense is actually going to be playing in this game, because they've got aspirations elsewhere, or maybe don't want to risk it. I don't know, right? And so we've got a lot to kind of sort out for that. Let's see. What else do we have here? JB says, I like this matchup, to be honest with y'all. I will definitely dig more into the matchup with Maryland and see kind of how Auburn stacks up against them. The question for me is going to be, after, if once I get a chance to watch Maryland's film, is how physical they are in the trenches. If they're not a physical team, then it could be a long day for Maryland. But I do know, again, that they have a passing attack. Um, they have always been a team, well, not always, but since the young Tagovailoa has been there, they've been a team that can go out there and put up points, and they're going to throw it around a lot. So it is going to be interesting to see kind of how they are able to deal with the physicality of Auburn, because Auburn has been a very physical team, particularly down the last stretch of this season. Particularly in the trenches, Auburn's done a really good job of just kind of imposing their will in the run game on teams. So again, it will be interesting to see. I expect all of the offensive linemen to play this final game. So that's an Avery Jones, a Gunnar Britton, a Cam Stutz. I expect all of them to play in their final game at Auburn. And you still have Connor Lew if Avery Jones, um, for whatever reason, can't or won't be playing in this game. So I expect the offensive line, Dylan Wade, all of them to be healthy and available for us to go out there and do what we've done the last few games of the season, as far as being able to be gritty in the trenches. So the run game should be there. All of the running backs should be available to play in this game. Be interesting to see what happens with Brian Batty, and whether or not he's going to be deciding to come back to Auburn. I don't know where he is on his graduation, because he's already used his free transfer, of course. Um, you know, so again, it'd be interesting to see what happens with him, and how much he factors into this. So I'm looking forward to seeing all that. Let's see. What else do we have here? Again, another person glad it's not the Beham Bowl. The weakest link says, so glad Auburn got the Music City Bowl this year and not the Beham Bowl. Why are y'all so against Birmingham, man? And not the Music City Bowl is not more prestigious. Y'all just like Nashville better? Wow, what are we doing? Uh, Jonathan Boyson says, need to get the young guys who will be back next year practice and in-game reps for next year. Absolutely. This is what you definitely want to utilize your bowl practice and situation for, is getting guys actual live game. And, scrimmages are cool, but getting guys the ability to go out there and play against another team and get some practices is going to be crucial, especially as you talk about building depth for the next season. And figuring out who are your guys that could actually step up in a Power Five contest against a team like Maryland, again, that does come from a P5. Are you going to be able to go out there and handle business in a live game? This is going to be their opportunity to do that. They've been sitting on the bench saying to themselves, hey, man, I could go out there and well, all right, now's your chance. Let's see what you got. You've got multiple weeks to prepare. Are you going to be focused out there? Coach Hugh Freeze talked about he's not one of those coaches that really, is super hard on guys as they're as they go out there and prepare for bowl games. So are they going to be in the right mental place, or are they going to be enjoying Nashville, right? And I'm not telling people to not enjoy themselves as they go out there for the bowl. There's a lot of great things for those young men to go and participate in, but are they going to be in the right mental place to come and play a football game? If you've been talking about wanting more playing time and this is your opportunity to get it, then you should be out there focused and locked in, ready to go out there and destroy another team on the football field. So we will look to see how that preparation happens for those young men. Again, particularly for those who have not had the opportunities, but have been hoping for those opportunities. This is the time for them. Let's see here. Chris S says he lives in the area. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, listen, I live in Birmingham area too. It's an easy drive for me. Let's see. What else do we get? Knox Cleveland, I see your question there about basketball. We're not getting into that this morning. We got plenty of time to talk basketball another time. Not doing it this morning. Let's see. What else do we have? A lot of portal talk. We'll definitely talk more portal. Brian Dixon says no one wants to play a bowl game in its own state. I don't really particularly care where the bowl game is, as long as it happens and we win it. If it ain't one of the playoff games, then where it is really for me about proximity as a fan. So I just want to be able to make it to the bowl without having to deal with a bunch of nonsense. So I don't share that opinion, but maybe some other people do. Let's see. Steve Bradley says he went to the bowl game in 03 when Caddy played. It was fun, but cold. That's definitely going to be a thing. And it will be, late December in Nashville, open air stadium. It will likely be cold there. So make sure that you all are prepared for the weather. I don't know. And listen, the weather these days is super unpredictable. So I have no idea what's going to be happening with that. Corey Weber says, has AU mentioned anything about when bowl practice begins? I have not seen anything about when bowl practice will begin, but I anticipate it will be next week that they'll start doing bowl prep. This week, I'm pretty sure the vast majority is going to be devoted to them trying to do recruitment of not only trying to close out the early signing day class, internal recruitment of players for the transfer portal, and trying to get offers out to transfer portal players that are entering from other schools. I anticipate a heavy portion of this week will be focused on that, and they'll begin bowl prep next week. But we will definitely let you know as soon as I hear something about that. All right, y'all. I am going to get out of here. I appreciate you guys dropping in with me this morning. As always, the morning drop is brought to you by Rogue Shop. Make sure you head over to rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT when you do that. It gets you a little something off your purchase. Sleep, stress, anxiety, pain, medicines, all there at America's #1 online dispensary, which is Rogue Shop. Again, that's rogueshop.com using code REPORT. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow morning with more morning drop goodness. Hit the like button before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share the video with somebody else. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.
Drop!